What's your favorite scary movie? No, wait, we did that last week. What's your favorite scary book? Look, obviously I love movies, but as an English teacher, as a writer, and as a reader, scary books should be just as big a part of the season as icons like Michael Myers, Ghostface, and Ernest P. Worrell. Of course, books and movies are different media. They have different requirements, different demands to make a scary story. Movies can do things that books can't. Jump scares, for example, don't work very well in books. You can have scary sounds, scary music. These techniques are so effective that even the absence of them can be very powerful. The movie A Quiet Place, for example, wouldn't be nearly as creepy if it was a book instead of a movie. So what are some ways that books can scare us? A novelist has to focus on things like mood, tone, atmosphere. Edgar Allan Poe, of course, was the king of this. The man never met a depressing adjective that he didn't like, and he wielded those modifiers the way that a surgeon wields a scalpel. There's also something to be said for creating a world that's just off and leaving pieces for the reader to try to figure out what's wrong. Shirley Jackson's final novel, We Have Always Lived in the Castle, is amazing about this. It starts off with an 18-year-old girl, Mary Catherine, just listing things that she likes, things like her sister and poisonous mushrooms. And then she goes on to tell us that everybody else in her family is dead. And then she goes grocery shopping. As she does her shopping, we learn that everybody in town seems to hate Mary Cat's family, and she seems to hate them right back, even though everybody pretends to be nice and polite. The whole thing is structured like it's setting up some sort of big mystery for the reader. The answers to the book's mysteries turn out to be relatively easy to solve, but the way Shirley Jackson paints the Blackwood family just gets more and more disturbing at every step. The way the story finally resolves itself is just freaky, and I wish I could think of a better way to describe it, messed up, and well worth reading. Novelists can also concentrate on internal conflict in ways that you really can't do very well in movies. If the conflict is inside the character himself, well, in a movie, we'd either have to explain it through voiceover, which can be very clunky, or you have to have an actor skilled enough at facial expressions and body language to convey exactly what the character is thinking. There are certainly actors good enough to do that, but the internal thoughts of a character can be presented in more detail and nuance in a book than you could ever have in a movie, no matter how good the actor is. For an unorthodox example, let's look at Scott Sigler's Infected trilogy. The first book in the series is about Perry Dawsey, a football player who gets, well, infected with alien spores that start to grow weird triangle growths inside of his body. It gets worse when he realizes that the growths have a consciousness of their own, and it gets really bad when they start to talk to him. A lot of the terror in this book comes from Perry's perspective. The realization that what he thought was just a rash is actually an alien invader that's taken root in his own flesh. It's old-fashioned body horror with tons of existential dread. And of course, Sigler being Sigler, there's plenty of gore and violence to go along with it if you're into that sort of thing. I promise you, if you read this book, you will never look at the scissors in your kitchen the same way again. I know I bring up Stephen King a lot in these videos, but I would be remiss not to point out how good he is at a lot of these things. If you read The Shining, for example, you get a portrait of the world that's off in the Overlook Hotel, and you get to watch Jack Torrance's slow descent into madness as he grapples with both his internal demons, that being alcohol, and the malevolent ghosts that inhabit the hotel. This is one of the reasons that King famously didn't like Stanley Kubrick's movie version, by the way. Jack Nicholson's Jack Torrance was crazy from the jump, and it lost a lot of the character work that King is so good at. That's what puts The Shining on my list of good movie, bad adaptation of the book. Right up there with The Wizard of Oz, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and, of course, Frankenstein. But if you're only familiar with the movie version, try reading The Shining. It's a totally different experience. And while you're at it, check out the sequel, Dr. Sleep. It's one of King's best books in this post-Dark Tower era, and I don't think people talk about it nearly enough. So go ahead, scare me in the movies, friends, but scare me on paper too, especially with Halloween right around the corner. What are some of your favorite scary books? Drop them in the comments. And then creep yourself out with a good new scary book. Something with like a nice zombie attack. I don't know, something like, like Opening Night of the Dead. It's on Amazon right now.